These are 20 of the largest layer 1 blockchains in the world, and today I'm going to be ranking them in a tier list. I'll be filling out this chart, which goes from S tier to D tier, with S tier being God tier, aka the absolute best projects, and D tier being trash, aka projects I wish would just disappear. Let's start with the big one, Cardano. I've been a longtime critic of Cardano, and I think my biggest gripe is that their valuation is divorced from their fundamentals. Me being a fundamentals guy, that's something I care about a lot. I'm also not a fan of Charles's style, which I describe as overpromise but underdeliver. I can be fair though, they deserve some props for their recent progress. They do have smart contracts out now and some early tractions with their dApps, so that's why I'm ranking them C tier. If you asked me a year ago, I would have put them D tier, but they've improved, so I had to move them up. If they're able to roll out their scaling upgrades as planned, then who knows, I may move them up yet again. Next up is Solana. Boy, I really wanted to rank them high, but I just can't. They have way too many network issues that they haven't fixed yet. I'm talking about DDoS attacks or full-on outages. These are serious too because some of them last for days and have hurt their DeFi users. Like if you can't send through transactions to top off your loan, then you'd get liquidated for no fault of your own. But besides that, there's still a lot to like about Solana. They have a poppin' developer scene, and they're backed by the formidable Sam Bankman-Fried and his FTX empire. When their network is running smoothly, it truly is a joy to use. So that's why I'm putting Solana at B tier. But if they ever do fix their network issues, then I'm moving them up for sure. Next we have Near Protocol. They are kind of early in terms of adoption, but there's a lot to like about them. They have a stellar team, and their sharding technology is quite impressive. They also have a new algo stablecoin called USN. It is super interesting, not quite as risky as Luna's UST, but maybe a little bit risky. Besides that, they have an amazing developers experience where devs can earn royalties from their smart contracts, and us end users can enjoy a gas-free experience. So that's why I'm putting Near Protocol as A tier. They are borderline A tier though, definitely not close to S tier. In fact, there's only one coin I truly consider S tier, and you're gonna have to keep watching to find out which one. Next we have Terra LUNA. You know, before its epic collapse, I probably would have put them at B tier, or even A tier because of their rocket ship growth. I really liked some of their apps, like their Chai app or Mirror Protocol, but alas they bet their entire ecosystem on their algo stablecoin, which caused it all to collapse. So it's an easy D tier for Terra LUNA. They had an arrogant founder who the market humbled, and while it sucks that so many people got hurt by this, I'm just glad that it crashed before it got so big that it would have taken down the entire crypto space. Alright, on to Fantom. This project I've always had mixed feelings about. On one hand, they've experienced a massive DeFi boom during the bull market. They had a strong incentives program that got builders to come, and it seemed like developers genuinely enjoyed building on Fantom. But on the other hand, their move to DeFi always seemed a bit opportunistic to me. For the longest time, they were focused on the Internet of Things and smart cities like IOTA was. But when Andre Cronje came, he pushed them towards DeFi instead. That turned out to be a smart move, which helped their adoption rocket. But they also had an over-reliance on Andre, who's a true rock star in the DeFi space, but he's known for being fickle and hopping from project to project. So it was no surprise when he announced his departure a few months ago, and subsequently caused FTM's price to crash. That's why I'm putting Fantom at B tier. Next up we have Binance Smart Chain. Speaking of opportunistic, BSC may be one of the most opportunistic projects out there. CZ and Binance decided to launch their own network when they saw Ethereum struggle with demand. They literally just cloned Ethereum, but tweaked some parameters to make it faster and cheaper. But they never really thought about the consequences of that, like how the state of the network would get too bloated, and how validators would struggle with operating it. So as time passed, a lot of issues popped up, and people called out the Binance devs for not even fixing the most basic issues. It looks to me like BSC is an afterthought for Binance, and they don't really care to dedicate the time and resources to improve it. Besides that, it's just a super centralized project, and their ecosystem is full of rug pulls and meme coins, so it's an easy C tier for me. I just can't get myself to like it. Alright, on to EOS. They were famous for their year-long ICO, raising a record $4 billion, but I have a bone to pick with them because they raised so much money and didn't even do anything valuable with it, besides make their founders rich. Remember how they had a constitution? That was laughable. Their governance process was also a complete mess. Now their devs have all left and it's honestly a ghost town. The market has really spoken because EOS wasn't even able to reach its previous all-time high even in a new bull market. So this is the first project I'm putting in the D tier. Crypto would be better off without them. Next up is Stacks. Honestly, I really like their team and their mission of building on Bitcoin. Their proof of transfer is a fascinating system that ties their consensus protocol to Bitcoin. Their Citycoins project that launched in Miami and New York was a cool idea, but honestly, it's just been crickets when it comes to adoption. Maybe because builders don't care about being tied to Bitcoin at the end of the day. Stacks also made a big mistake by becoming the first ever registered ICO with the SEC, because they kind of admitted that they were a security, so US exchanges were unwilling to list their token for the longest time. For these reasons, I'm putting Stacks at C tier. Alright, time for Avalanche. They have a great team and interesting technology. I like their fast time to finality and how their novel consensus mechanism makes them more resilient to certain types of attacks. They made a great decision of having an EVM compatible chain out of the gate because that's helped them get some solid adoption. There's been some debate on Twitter as to whether or not Avalanche's design is truly the best approach, but a lot of that is just theoretical, so we'll have to wait and see. For now, I'm giving them an A tier rating. Next up is going to be a fun one, Tron. But first, a quick shout out to our video sponsors DeSo. They're trying to solve the huge problems plaguing social media these days, but they're doing it in a way that doesn't require a billionaire to buy the platform and make changes. Instead, they've built a custom layer 1 blockchain that scales as more people join the network. There's no gas fees, it's the fastest syncing blockchain out there, and anyone can create their own decentralized social media app on DeSo. It's completely open source and all content is stored on chain. This means that you can own your own data and social graph, so you don't have to worry about getting deplatformed. For creators, we get to monetize our content up front, and even fund our next big idea by launching a DAO or NFT in just a few clicks. DeSo already has a bunch of working apps that you can try out. They have Web3 versions of Twitter, LinkedIn, plus some tools to launch your own DAO. So go check them out using my links below. Alright, back to Tron. This project was honestly just a massive grift for Justin Sun to get rich. Did you know that he sold a ton of his Tron for Ether, and now he owns more ETH than Vitalik Buterin himself? I think that says everything about his intentions if he prefers to hold ETH over TRX. Also, Justin just copies everything that's successful. Like Tron's white paper was a copy of Ethereum's white paper, and his new stablecoin USDD is a copy of Luna's UST. He pretty much added zero value to the space, and yet he's a billionaire. So that really pisses me off. Also, when Tron acquired BitTorrent, one of their executives said that Tron was a, quote, marketing machine layered on a thin veneer of technology. That sums it up perfectly for me. Off to D tier, the garbage tier for Tron. Next, we have Kadena, a lesser known project that had quite the vocal community during the bull market. I always felt that it was a bit overhyped by its supporters though. They have this interesting technology called Chainweb, which lets them use proof of work like Bitcoin, but with much faster speeds. They also created their own smart contract language, and they claim to have solved the blockchain trilemma like every project does. But their super high TPS numbers are actually misleading because it depends on them using a private chain in their calculations. And there's also concerns about their network design leading to broken composability and longer time to finality. Their team is just okay in my opinion, and their tokenomics isn't the best. So for those reasons, I'm putting them at C tier. Next up, we have Polkadot. Their approach has always been slow but steady. In late 2021, they started rolling out their parachains, and right now they're auctioning off their 18th parachain as we speak. I kind of like their whole relay chain parachain model because that lets chains share security but also stay flexible. Like different apps can customize their chains as need be. Dr. Gavin Wood, the founder of Polkadot, is also widely respected across the crypto world. So I put Polkadot on A tier, but it is a borderline A tier like Near Protocol because they need more growth and adoption before they are solidly A tier. Alright, on to Waves. This project has been around since 2016, but they were never really able to find their footing. Initially, they were focused on letting people launch their own custom tokens, but now they're more focused on your typical DeFi and NFT stuff. Recently, they got some buzz because of their algo stablecoin called Neutrino. People wrote on Twitter that it was unsustainable like Luna's UST. All I know is that Neutrino lost its peg for quite some time and is still not all the way back at $1 yet. So Waves is C tier for me. Next, we have Elrond. This project's not bad. They have full sharding implemented, and they've built their own virtual machine, which they say is much better than the Ethereum virtual machine. Staking is quite easy to do in Elrond, and they also have a maximum cap instead of perpetual inflation. So that's the good stuff, but they also have some negatives too. Like their team is just okay, and there's barely any external devs building in their ecosystem. That's why the team has to resort to building out their own DeFi primitives. And that's not a good approach because that's going to take them forever. So while I respect Elrond, I'm going to have to put them in the B tier. Next, we have Internet Computer. They might have had the worst token launch of all time. ICP hit the market at super high prices and then proceeded to dump 95% even during the bull market. People accused the team of misconduct, and the whole thing left a bad taste in our mouths. Also, I'm not a fan of their marketing approach. They're super buzzword heavy, and they decided to rename everything. Like they call their smart contracts canisters instead. People have wondered if they are even truly crypto because they require KYC for their identity solution and their code is closed source. I just don't think they're gonna ever accomplish their goal of reinventing the internet. So it's off to the D tier for ICP. Next up is Radix. This is definitely a lesser known project, but I'm a fan of their technology. They are building the best blockchain for DeFi, and to achieve that, they want to maintain atomic composability at all times. They also have their own smart contract language called Scripto that's supposedly better than Solidity. Personally, I'm waiting for their next upgrade called Babylon, because that's when their smart contracts go live. So until then, I can only put them in C tier. If Babylon rolls out smoothly and some traction begins, then I will upgrade them. Next, we have Cosmos, one of the biggest projects in the interoperability space. There are so many notable projects built using the Cosmos SDK, I'm impressed, like Binance Smart Chain, Terra, and Crypto.com Chain were all built using their SDK. Now, those projects don't necessarily have to use the Atom token, but if they enable the IBC bridge to connect to other projects, then they will have to buy Atom. So while the Atom token isn't the best at capturing value, it is looking better and better as more projects enable their bridge. Also, it's a testament to their architecture that Terra can completely shut off their own blockchain without affecting the other projects across the Cosmos universe. So for those reasons, and because they have a ton of devs in their ecosystem, I'm putting them A tier. Next is Algorand. Their founder is a famous professor from MIT, and they've built some impressive technology. They are more focused on enterprise and government use cases though, like supporting central bank digital currencies. So it's no surprise that they're more centralized, like their relay nodes are permissioned. Because of their enterprise focus, they don't have a lot of stuff for the retail audience, and that's why you don't see a lot of people cheering for Algorand on social media. Overall, it's quite centralized and I'm not too excited about it, so off to C tier they go. Alright, on to Harmony. They have sharding, they're fast and cheap, and they have good partnerships too. There's a pretty cool game that runs on their blockchain called DeFi Kingdoms, but their network still has some issues because they're not able to handle a big wave of activity hitting their network at once. So for that reason, I put them in the B tier. You might have guessed it by now, but Ethereum is my only S tier coin. ETH is the most beautiful layer 1 blockchain out there, and it's what got me into crypto in the first place. It's the most well-known, most adopted, and the most devs choose to build on it without being bribed by token incentives. It also just works. It doesn't have huge outages like Solana, and it just chugs along. Yes, it has expensive gas fees, but people are willing to pay for that, so that should tell you something about their product market fit. Also, their issues will eventually be fixed when the merge comes and when rollups become more mature. So I don't care if it's expensive and slow for now. Just ask yourself, out of all these layer 1s, which ones will still be around 10 years later? My bet is on Ethereum, and for that reason, it goes in the S tier. Well, there you go. Look how beautiful this is. 20 projects all ranked and ordered. Let me know if there's anything you disagree with, or if there's another layer 1 that I did not rate that you want me to. See ya!